Okay, next up... We probably need red more than anything else. We don't need any more purple cores. It knows I wanted them. I just don't need them. Let's see, forget what game it was called. FPS where the main shtick was where you can blow up all the environment to a point. You're probably thinking of Red Faction or Red Faction Guerrilla or Armageddon. Those are the two that you probably would have played. Could have been other ones. Red Faction was neat, but the world was too big. What it needed to be was like a small focused city that was super destructible instead. See, Bad Company had that to a certain extent. True. Yeah, Bad Company had destructible buildings. I still think that would actually be a really fun FPS, which is just like sci-fi, crazy stuff. You can like drop buildings on the battlefields, but your enemies can destroy them just as easily, and so it's kind of this back and forth of like artillery nonsense and whatnot. Oh, that would be so beautiful. Red Faction was an FPS. It was a third-person shooter. Closer, give or take. Talking about an idea or a game? Idea. A mix of RTS and FPS with different goals. I keep seeing people attempt that, but it never works. I don't think it'll ever quite work right, but I still think it would be really cool. I guess the closest I would almost compare it to is frustratingly Fortnite. I like the idea of building stuff in Fortnite, but it's usually just people making shit towers and whatnot. And like staircase spam to get higher, which like neat idea. Looks kind of ugly, and it does really like turn the game into something else, for better or worse. Jesus, I was expecting this to be light defenses. It said light defenses. Let's see, Planetside had some of what you're asking. I wanted to like Planetside so bad, but there were so many AFKers and there were so many cheaters. Wasn't this supposed to be light resistance? Or did I pick wrong? I think we'll actually be okay. But, there was some concern here. Did my towers take hits? Nah. Yeah. I'd love to see somebody take Planetside and actually, like, bring it to completion. I think what doomed the game was, honestly, lack of experience, oddly enough, but also just, being sold out to, was it Daybreak? That's really kind of what ruins it, I think, for everybody. At least from what I've heard. Another air raid? Yeah, let's do another air raid. I'm just picking the low-hanging fruit at this point. Okay. Let's get that last obliterator. Alright, defenses are done. I can just go do whatever I want now. As long as I don't lose. Let's see. Planetside had its issues before too, if you want to compare it to the original. Yeah, I never actually got into either of them. I tried playing Planetside 2 for a while, which I think worked. It was fun. It was laggy, and there were a lot of AFKers and hackers. The biggest issue is just the fact that, like, I was severely undergunned, and I really didn't know what I was doing. And that does not Planetside does not have the best beginner experience if you don't have somebody to, like, guide you. So I think we played, like, for 2 or 3 hours, and it was just kind of like, what? people are still talking about Red Faction. I wanted to like Red Faction. I liked it. Red Faction Guerrilla was goofy but too empty. Red Faction Armageddon was... Honestly, I actually found it to be slightly more fun, just because they got rid of all the sandbox elements. But the whole... Well, I don't know. Like, the sandbox elements were fun. It's just the more focused level set and the more interesting story made it at least somewhat more appealing. But it could have been a lot better. Yeah. The main issue, I think, with it was... It would have been a... Oddly enough, I almost wonder if Red Faction Armageddon would have actually gone over better if it came out... if it came out nowadays. I don't know if people's standards have gotten lower, but, like... It feels like people are more tolerant of, like... AA jank. And I think everybody was expecting Red Faction Armageddon to be this, like, you know, on par with Halo or Half-Life or something like that. Because I had the same problem with, like, Darksiders. Where it's like, I actually rather enjoyed... Well, I really love Darksiders. But for whatever reason, everybody was like, no, it was terrible. Like, I was actually reading about how the Shadowrun competitive FPS specifically was panned because of a lot of things that have actually just become staple nowadays. Like, it was a hero shooter before Overwatch and whatnot. And now, you know, the most popular FPSs, I mean, are still the basic military shooters. But, like, Overwatch definitely has, like, stolen some hearts. I love Darksiders, but haven't had the chance to play the third one. I feel like the third is the weakest of the series, but they had the least amount of budget. Oddly enough, the fourth, Genesis, is actually my favorite, by far. Darksiders Genesis is fun. Okay, I should probably pay attention. I don't want to do this one. Because some of these actually are getting kind of tough. I guess I should probably start using the mines. Well, what do we want to do? I should ideally make my stuff tougher. I don't think we need to worry about Guardian Command as much. Oh. Did I want to work on the Ravager, actually? Let's work on the Ravager. Because my laser is phenomenal for taking out shields, but it's not actually very good against armor. And so I bet we could actually forge up the Ravager into being something fairly decent. Is that it? Cool. So yeah, we're just going to let that go for a bit. So you only watched a little bit of Darksiders, but you felt like the second one was the weakest. It had the weakest storytelling, but the gameplay, dungeon design, and exploration were so much better. Ish. Like, Darksiders 1 was clunky, slow, and hard. Darksiders 2 was faster paced, smoother, and I'm gonna say easier. There were a couple of enemies that were still tough, but like there were some enemies that would straight up just unlock you and just like beat the snot out of you in Darksiders 1, and they were just not fun to fight. Whereas 2 like refined that a little bit. The biggest issue is they wanted it to be a big bloated open world thing. I think they even had like designs on making it into an MMO, like everybody else at that time. which was stupid. And why? MMOs destroyed the parts of the games industry. Everybody wanted to make one. Same thing with MOBAs. At least people are learning with Battle Royales that you can't just hop on the trend and do well. Which is weird. Like, it took 3 major trends for people to even figure this one out. That, like, it's a bad idea to try and, like, you know, just Me Too something that, say, like, Blizzard is rocking at. Because it's not going to work. See, Darksiders 2 runs bad on your PC. I will admit, Darksiders 2 runs like garbage on my old PC. I don't actually know about my current one. I had to play it on my PS4. Mainly because THQ shut down before they... THQ and therefore Vigil shut down before they could actually do all of the requisite... like, all the necessary patching. Which is kind of suck. Like, I'm honestly trying to think of companies that Me Too'd into a genre and had it work well. Maybe I shouldn't use that, but, like, you know, follow the trend instead of setting it. I guess the only 2 I can think of would be, like, Blizzard with World of Warcraft, because they were just like, hey, EverQuest looks neat. Let's make EverQuest, but like our own version based on like Warcraft 3. I think that worked well for them. I mean, it obviously did. It worked incredibly well for them. Wow. This is messy. I think we're gonna have to swear off high value fights after this because cripes. I'm actually kind of afraid of the Overlord fight. If it's even remotely close to this. And I thought I was prepared. I was not, apparently. Tank's done. We're definitely gonna have to fix some things after this. Okay, I think we're good. We actually didn't lose anything, shockingly. Then again, replacing all of my towers with cyclones, which are extra beefy, worked shockingly well. We did lose like an amount of our forces, but that's okay. World of Warcraft worked well for Blizzard, but now it's kind of meh. I mean, that's what happens. You can't... Most people don't play a game for longer than a month. The idea of being able to, like, retain market dominance on a game that is 16 years old now? 15, 16 years old? Like, go figure. World of Warcraft's kind of going down the tubes. Like, there's only so much you can do without making a sequel. And the fact that they've managed to do what they have done is nothing short of impressive. I'm gonna pick that up so it's a little beefier. Let's see. Okay, let's go back to the forge. I want to work on this. That's pretty good. I don't think I want to mess with that any further. Okay, so now we've got a super chain gun. What else do I keep investing in? Probably that. Okay, so which one of these is going to screw me if I skip it? Either of these do. Well, we're actually low on yellow at this point, but I don't have any yellow. I don't need any more big cores. So invasion or invasion? Because let's go for the one with the highest amount of value. Cool. Sounds a lot like Garry's mod, which is 16 years old and still has an active player base. That's because nobody else has made anything even remotely close to Garry's mod. We did lose a couple of things. I'm 90% certain we just lost Cyclones? No, we lost Cyclones and 1 Talos. Should have paid attention to that. But yeah, I keep hoping that we get a, I desperately want a new Gmod, because then people would be up for playing it again. Because there was just something magic about Garry's mod that, like, no other game has captured. There's a couple of games that, like, stand out and kind of, like, still capture the magic, but, like, not to the same extent. Like, I'm a huge fan of Prop Hunt. I mean, I've got, like, 100-something episodes on Prop Hunt on YouTube. Plus, like, you know... shoot. Death something? I forget. Death Run. There was Death Run, there was Murder. I didn't do a whole lot of trouble in Terrace Town just because everybody I was playing with was absolute shit at role-playing. And so, like, anytime we try and do any kind of roleplay stuff, somebody would just, like, immediately start shooting, and there was no, like, real sense of, like, who done it. It was just more of, like, well, we figured it out. It's the guy with the gun. But, like, I guess I'm perpetually a bit baffled that nobody really capitalized on Prop Hunt to the same extent. Like, there were YouTube channels made using Garry's mod. And, I mean, at this point, they're all more or less dead or moved on to other things like Fortnite and whatnot. But, like, I gotta imagine there's a vast untapped market of people that would have bought into, like, a really solid standalone Prop Hunt. And there is one that exists that is actually quite good, called Witchit, which I've played and rather enjoyed. But Witchit is most definitely, like, not to the same level. It was a much more limited product, with limited features and whatnot. But the problem is, like, it only has so much, it only has so many levels and, like, so many props and whatnot, so it's like, yeah, it's super fun. But it just doesn't have as much. Did Prey ever set up a Typhon Hunt mode? I heard they did, but I think that happened right around, like, the same time I lost my entire recording group to work with. So I never really gave it a second look. I also didn't hear anybody talk about it in the slightest. Which always makes me wonder if Arcane's just really bad at PR. I mean, they're attached to Bethesda, which inherently is, like, bad PR. Well, sort of. Except for everybody's really excited for Doom Eternal, so that can't be it. I think they just let Bethesda give them the Prey name, and that screwed everything over. Alright, 10 days. 10 days of actually difficult stuff. The biggest problem is the game is scaled past my ability to fight back, and I'm not going to say we're on a death spiral so much as just we're in a out spiral, I guess. Let's see. Let's just deploy. We need to repair. ID knows PR, always has. ID also has the benefit of making... Well, no. Because the last ID game was bad. Or is that not actually ID? Who was in charge of Wolfenstein Youngblood? Because I thought that... I mean, that's definitely an ID product. I just don't know if it was an ID production. I really wanted to play that game. But it came out, I think, a year ago while we were still living in the hotel, or close to. Or, like, just after we moved back in, and I was just like, bleh. See, when's the next D&D campaign going to be up on YouTube? When I know it's going to be able to continue. Currently, we have had 2 sessions, but we've already had to go on a long hiatus due to all but one member of the campaign. No, even he needed to take a week off. So every single person in the campaign had to take sequential vacations, and yeah, so that didn't bode well for keeping up with content. So instead of trying to like put out a couple episodes and being like, yeah, I can't put up anymore, figured I'd just hold on to it. I haven't finished all the branding anyway. Yeah, I know how that feels. What I'd like to do eventually is actually set it up so that I have multiple campaigns running simultaneously. Where one of them is like the main campaign, and then the other is like a West Marches style one. That like, if the main campaign can't continue for whatever reason, the West Marches one meets up instead, and they'd be like, maybe set in the same world, but different time periods or stuff. I just actually have to put forth the effort to be like, 1, make all the assets for a secondary campaign, which would probably use a lot more stock assets. Yeah, Joe's book just came out, so he was busy from that. Yup. Holy shit, did they kill all of my melee dudes? I think they did. I guess let's repair. Oh, right. The other thing I want to do is we have landmines. Is that just a single landmine? Okay. So that's considerably different from what I was expecting. Wow, they wiped out almost all of my ground forces. That's brutal. A Wild West D&D campaign. I don't think I'd ever do Wild West. If I were to do something Wild West, it would probably be Space Western. Like, I guess Mandalore would be the closest I would be able to come to Wild West. Just because the idea of trying to balance around, like, actual Wild West would be annoying. But Space Wild West, now, that's easy to work with. Okay. I'm thinking we just beef up these frontliners as much as I possibly can. Right, I should remember to use the minigun a little. Air raid! Oh, I think we did actually. No, we didn't lose a thing. Now, it looks like a lot of these are actually just unarmored. So maybe we should... Let's give the Ravager a go. The damage isn't quite there. I think it's because I actually have to focus fire things to kill them. Shell is singing in the background. I was like, what is that noise? But there's... no. The other thing is, I truly do need to also get braver about talking to people when it comes to, like, D&D campaigns and whatnot. Because, like, it is very difficult to find more people to play with that can, like, have a schedule that also, like, could play a campaign. Like, I gotta sit down and be like, yeah, I could probably be like, hello, what about your mods? There's, apart from Cryoris, even though I know a number of my moderators are actually avid D&D players and have their own campaigns, there's a difference between just playing D&D and streaming D&D. And I think that's the big issue, from my perspective, is that, like, how many of you guys could be extremely entertaining in front of an audience for, like, 3-4 hours, confidently, and have good audio quality? Because once you start adding all of those, like, little caveats, the number dwindles to a very small number very fast. And so, like, yeah, if I want to have my own, like, personal D&D campaigns, that would actually make it a lot easier. Because I've done that before. No. I'd started my YouTube channel, but I wasn't recording it. But we used to have get-togethers every other Sunday or every Sunday or something as kind of like a potluck. And we just ran through a dungeon and whatnot. And it was fun, but it was definitely this... There were a lot more, like, immediate bits of baggage because people weren't used to role-playing, working as a team, or so on and so forth. Like, my biggest pet peeve in D&D is when your players specifically say, I don't wanna. So I had been doing a campaign, and two of the players more or less said, like, okay, we see your plot hook, but we're gonna leave. And I'm like... and this is, like, within 15 minutes of the campaign starting. And I had shut down for a moment, being like, how am I supposed to, like, deal with that? And so, I found a solution. It wasn't actually, like, impossible. Effectively, I just railroaded them so hard that they stopped trying to escape. Which is not a good solution, but it was the only one that I immediately had. Let's see. Do I even want to invest into this? Oh, I should probably up the health on the tri-cannons. Because we got a lot of those, and those get wrecked. Okay. And let's just keep going easy peasy. Did you just say that two of the D&D players had figured out the plot and decided to do everything but that? No. I straight up, like, had an old man come to them or something like that with a plot hook being like, our townspeople are being kidnapped, you look like solid adventurers, please help us out. They've all gone missing into this weird, in the middle of the night, and people said they saw, like, shadowy figures dancing in the moonlight or something. I don't know, it's been a couple of years. But, effectively this dude showed up, begged them for help, and two out of 6 of the players, I think, more or less were just like, yeah, no. And then that was it. I was just kind of like, well, that... So I just had the shadowy figures kidnap them. I mean, that was the easiest way to do it. And then more or less made it so that they didn't know where the exit of the dungeon was. So, like, they were trying to leave, but in reality, they were just moving closer and closer to the last boss instead, thinking that that was the exit, because I guess it kind of was. I don't know. But it's like, it's not a good feeling when people do that. You're not, as a player, never do that unless your DM is like actually just terrible. And like, yeah, I guess that's kind of what session zeros are supposed to be for, and associated other things. But it was definitely one of those where it's like, if you're gonna be in somebody's D&D campaign, don't spit on it. Unless whatever is happening is vile, and I've definitely heard some vile campaigns. But, like, once had a party rogue whose modus operandi was to roll hide, roll move silently, say nothing. Do nothing, not participate in combat, just take his loot, and then more or less not contribute in any other meaningful way. And nobody, like, I think my brother specifically just, like, effectively threw him bones but didn't actually do anything. Let's see, do I want any of this stuff? I pretty much don't. We're pretty good. Because, yeah, that mine barely does any damage. I guess I'll just invest into this thing. Just because it's an AoE. So we need yellow. Well, that's convenient.